Welcome back to my Auntie Rose Narrates channel, where I share touching real-life stories every single day. If you love stories that move your heart, hit subscribe and give this video a like. Let's jump right into today's story. I was watching TV in the family room, the same room where I had once watched my children take their first steps, the same room where we celebrated birthdays and quiet Christmas mornings. The light from the screen flickered softly across the walls, and for a moment, everything felt peaceful. It felt familiar. It felt like home, but that peace broke in a way I never expected. My son-in-law, Mark, walked in without looking at me. He went straight to the television, reached for the remote, and switched it off. The screen went black, and the room fell into a silence that felt heavier than his footsteps. "Go to your room, old woman," he said, in a tone that was calm but sharp enough to cut through my chest. "This living room is mine now." For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. I blinked at him, waiting for some small sign that he was joking, that maybe he'd laugh and say he didn't mean it. But he didn't. My daughter, Anna, stood behind him near the hallway. She dropped her gaze to the floor, her hands twisting nervously. She did not defend me. She did not look at me. She just stood there with the quiet guilt of someone who knew they were hurting a person who loved them. I didn't say a word. Not because I agreed with him, not because I accepted it, but because my heart felt too tired to fight. I stood up slowly, my knees stiff and aching, and walked past them. I didn't look at Mark. I didn't wait for Anna to lift her head and meet my eyes. I simply took my keys from the small bowl near the doorway and stepped outside. The air was cold, the kind of cold that makes you feel awake and numb at the same time. I sat in my car without starting it, my breath fogging the windshield, and I wondered when my home stopped being mine, when my family stopped being my family. I drove away that night without knowing where to go. I just needed distance, some space between me and the people I loved, even if it hurt to admit that I needed it. The next morning, while I was still trying to understand everything that had happened, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find a man in a crisp gray suit standing on the porch. He held a black folder in one hand and looked at me with calm, steady eyes. "Good morning," he said. "Are you Mrs. Helen Carter?" "Yes," I answered quietly. He straightened the folder against his chest and said, "I'm here regarding a matter that concerns your house, your family, and your rights." And in that single sentence, I realized nothing in my life would ever be the same again. My name is Helen Carter, and I have lived in the same house in Springfield, Ohio for almost 40 years. This house was more than bricks and wood to me. It was the keeper of our family memories. My husband, George, passed away 10 years ago. He was a quiet man with a warm laugh, the kind of man who never raised his voice, who believed in family above all else. Losing him was like losing the heartbeat of this house. But we carried on because life doesn't pause for grief. I have 2 children, my son, David, and my daughter, Anna. David is married to Linda, a woman I once thought I would grow to love like my own daughter. They live nearby in the same neighborhood, and we used to have dinner together almost every week. Anna, my daughter, married Mark, and they have 2 children, Sophie and Ethan. My grandchildren were my light. I spent mornings baking with Sophie and afternoons coaching Ethan on his Little Leap practice. Their laughter filled every corner of the house. In my own mind, I had always believed that family was the most important thing in the world. I thought love, patience, and understanding were enough to hold a family together. But lately, things had begun to change. Small things at first, comments that didn't sit right, glances that lasted too long, my advice dismissed as if it no longer mattered. I brushed it off as the normal push and pull of grown children trying to find independence. David, my son, had always been sensitive, the kind of man who carries his emotions quietly. He loves his wife, Linda, fiercely, but I sometimes felt that she held more control in their household than he did. She is ambitious and clever, the type who makes decisions quickly, and she never seemed to hide her opinion that my presence was unnecessary or burdensome. Anna, my daughter, is the peacemaker. She has a kind heart and always tries to smooth over conflicts, even when it hurts her. But I had noticed that with Mark, her husband, her calmness sometimes gave way to silence. Silence can be louder than words. Mark is a tall man with a sharp jaw and a personality that commands attention. He's intelligent and successful, but over the past year, I noticed a subtle shift. He began to act as though he owned the house, the family, and even Anna's choices. Conversations that once included me now seemed to exclude me. Decisions were made without my knowledge. Invitations I had taken for granted were quietly rescinded. The first time I realized something had truly changed was during a Sunday dinner. I had made my famous roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and my homemade apple pie. It was a simple meal, but it had been a family tradition for decades. Everyone gathered in the dining room, and for a moment I felt the old warmth, the comfort of being together. But then Mark made a passing comment about how I overcomplicated things and that we should simplify family dinners. It wasn't harsh, not exactly, but it cut deeper than he could know. Anna tried to laugh it off, to smooth over the tension. David changed the subject, but I felt it. That quiet shift where my role in my own family was becoming less important. Even my grandchildren seemed to sense it. Sophie would glance at me with a question in her eyes, as if asking, "Grandma, why don't they let you be you anymore?" Ethan would quietly slip away from the table to play in the backyard rather than sit for the meal. And still, I tried to tell myself that it was just a phase. Families evolve. Children grow. But my intuition, the quiet, insistent voice I had always trusted, was telling me something different. Something that made the pit in my stomach grow heavier with each passing day. The day before Mark told me to leave the living room, I had baked cookies for Sophie and Ethan. I went to their house with a small plate of chocolate chip cookies, hoping to spend a quiet afternoon together. But when I arrived, Linda intercepted me at the door. She was polite, but the edge in her voice was unmistakable. "Thanks, Helen, but we're busy right now," she said, taking the plate from my hands and putting it on the counter. "Sophie and Ethan are in their rooms. Maybe another time." I nodded, forcing a smile, but my heart sank. "Of course," I said softly, retreating back to my car. On the drive home, I kept thinking about how things had changed so quietly, so gradually, that I hadn't even noticed the distance growing between us. The house that had once been full of laughter now felt heavier. The room seemed emptier. I felt like a stranger in my own life, and yet, despite all of this, I still hoped. I hoped that dinner would go well the next day, that Anna would stand up for me, that my children would remember the years of love and care that built this family. I hoped, even though my hope had been tested again and again. That night, I went to bed feeling tired but still holding on to a fragile thread of optimism. Little did I know, by the next evening, that thread would be snapped, and the calm I had cherished would be gone. The calm before the storm is always the quietest, I realized later. That night, I didn't hear the storm coming. I only felt it when it hit. The days after that Sunday dinner felt heavier than any I could remember. Every visit to my children's homes seemed to remind me that my presence was no longer welcome in the way it had once been. I kept trying to brush it off, telling myself that maybe I was overreacting, that families sometimes drift apart, and that my children were just adjusting to their own lives. But deep down, I knew the truth. Something had shifted, and I couldn't reach it anymore. One afternoon, I went over to David and Linda's house. I had brought along a small loaf of banana bread, still warm from the oven. I knocked on the door and waited, hoping to hear the familiar sound of David's voice. Linda answered instead, smiling politely, but her eyes told a different story. "Oh, Helen," she said, holding the door open just enough for me to step inside. "David is out running errands and, well, it's a bit hectic today." I forced a smile. "That's fine. I just thought I'd drop this off." I held out the bread dot. She hesitated for a moment, then took it, nodding. "Thanks," she said softly. But instead of inviting me in, she stepped aside and closed the door behind me almost immediately. I stood on the porch for a moment, unsure what to do. The warmth I used to feel in their home had vanished. It was replaced by a polite distance, an invisible barrier I couldn't cross. Later that evening, I called Anna. I wanted to ask if we could have dinner together, just the two of us and the kids. But when I explained my hope, she hesitated. "Mom, I don't know," she said. Her voice was quiet, hesitant. "Mark's been stressed and, well, I don't think tonight is a good night." I tried to push, gently, carefully. "I just want to see you and the kids. It's been a while." Anna paused. "I know, Mom, but maybe another time." "I promise." The promise felt fragile, like a paper bridge over a deep canyon. I ended the call feeling small, unheard, invisible. The next morning, I was invited to Sophie's school play. I had promised myself I wouldn't miss it. I wanted to see her on stage, hear her proud little voice reciting her lines. But when I arrived, Linda was there too, and her eyes narrowed the moment she saw me. "Oh, Helen, you came," she said, her tone polite but cold. "We weren't expecting. I wouldn't miss it," I said quickly, trying to keep my voice calm. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Well, just remember, seats are limited." I found a place in the back row, feeling every gaze like a weight pressing down. David arrived shortly after, his face drawn, and he gave me a brief, almost apologetic smile. Anna arrived with Mark, who barely acknowledged me. During the play, I watched Sophie perform, her little arms waving, her smile bright and innocent. My heart swelled with pride, but the shadow of tension never left the edges of my happiness. Even in this moment of joy, the distance between us was palpable. Afterward, we gathered outside. Parents and relatives chatted and laughed. I tried to join the conversation, but every time I opened my mouth, someone else spoke over me. Someone else directed attention elsewhere. I began to feel invisible, a ghost of the woman I had once been in this family. When we returned home, the quiet tension lingered. I prepared dinner for myself, but my mind was on the growing distance, the little signs I had ignored for so long. And then came the moment that I had feared, but still wasn't prepared for. It was a Friday evening. Anna and Mark invited me for dinner, at least that was the invitation. I had arrived early, carrying a casserole I had spent the afternoon preparing. I knocked, and Mark answered the door. His smile was polite but forced, and his eyes were sharp, calculating. "Evening, Helen," he said, stepping aside. "Come in." I entered, setting the casserole on the counter. The kitchen smelled of roasted vegetables and bread, but instead of the warmth I remembered, the room felt tight, controlled. Anna was there, trying to smile, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. The kids ran past, oblivious to the tension. Dinner began quietly. We sat around the table, and I noticed Mark dominating the conversation. He spoke about his work, his friends, even the house renovations he wanted to make. I tried to contribute, suggesting a small change in the kitchen, something simple and harmless. "No, Helen," Mark said sharply, cutting me off mid-sentence. "I think the current setup works fine. Let's not complicate things." I swallowed the hurt and nodded. "Of course," I whispered. Anna didn't say anything. She avoided my eyes. After dinner, I cleared the table quietly. That's when it happened. Mark came into the kitchen, his expression cold. "Helen," he said, "I think it's time you go home, really. You've overstayed your welcome." I froze. The words didn't register immediately. "Mark," Anna began, but her voice was timid, almost fearful. "Go to your room, old woman," Mark said, louder this time. "This living room, this house, this family, everything is mine now." I looked at Anna, searching for any sign of defense, protection, a flicker of the love I knew was still inside her. But she dropped her gaze to the floor. Her hands twisted nervously, and she said nothing. I felt my heart tighten. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply stood, slowly reached for my keys on the counter, and walked out the door. The night air was cold, sharper than it had any right to be. I drove away in silence, letting the car take me wherever it would. I spent that night in my own home, but it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt empty. Hollowed out the following day, I woke up to a knock at the door. I opened it to find a man in a crisp gray suit standing on my porch. He held a black folder and smiled politely. "Good morning." "Mrs. Helen Carter," he said. "Yes," I replied quietly. "I'm here regarding a matter that concerns your house. Your family and your rights," he said. I stared at him, unsure what to think. Was this another intrusion? Another conflict, or could it be the start of a change I had been praying for, even when I didn't know how to ask for it? The moment I took the folder into my hands, I realized that life was about to teach me a lesson I had never anticipated, a lesson about love, respect, and the strength of standing quietly. Even when the world tried to push you aside, the man in the gray suit introduced himself as Mr. Collins, a lawyer representing an estate I had almost forgotten about. He held the folder firmly, as if it contained more than just papers. It held the weight of truth, of recognition, and maybe even justice. "I understand this might come as a surprise," he said, "but the matter concerns a will and your rights as the legal owner of this property." I blinked. My mind spun. A will, but George passed away 10 years ago. Everything was settled then. Mr. Collins shook his head gently. "Not entirely, Mrs. Carter. It appears there have been some misunderstandings, some omissions, and perhaps even attempts to override your legal standing. We need to go over everything carefully." I invited him inside. For the first time in months, I felt a strange flicker of hope. Sitting at my kitchen table, the papers laid out before me, I began to understand the truth. Mark and Linda had been slowly trying to claim control over the properties, over the family assets, even over the house that had been my home for decades. The papers detailed property ownership, bank accounts, and legal rights I had never fully examined. Each paragraph, each signature, revealed the subtle ways someone had tried to sideline me. I felt anger, yes, but more than that, I felt the quiet pain of betrayal. How had it come to this? How had people I loved and trusted forgotten the woman who had raised them, who had given them everything? I thought of Anna and Mark. I thought of David and Linda, and I realized that this wasn't just about money or property. It was about respect, recognition, and the acknowledgement of love that had been given freely for decades. The days that followed were a blur of meetings with Mr. Collins, phone calls, and careful preparation. I didn't want to fight for revenge. I wanted only what was rightfully mine, and perhaps more importantly, I wanted my family to remember who I was. The first confrontation came quietly. I visited Anna's house one afternoon, bringing nothing but a small basket of fruit and a calm heart. I wasn't there to argue, to accuse, or to lecture. I only wanted a conversation. Anna answered the door, her eyes wide. "Mom, I didn't expect you. I just wanted to talk," I said softly. "Is that okay?" She hesitated, but stepped aside. We sat in the living room, the children playing quietly in the backyard. "I know things have been difficult," I began. And I know you've all been busy trying to live your lives. But I need you to understand something. I am still part of this family. I love you. I have always loved you. And I deserve to be treated with respect, just as much as any of you do. Tears welled in Anna's eyes. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in months. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. I didn't know how much you were hurting. The words hung in the air. I wanted to tell her that it wasn't just for David, Linda, even Mark. They all needed to understand. But I decided to take one step at a time. Later that evening, I spoke with David. He was quieter than usual, almost apologetic. Mom, I didn't see it, he said. I thought everything was fine. I didn't know how far it had gone. I shook my head slowly. David, sometimes we let things slip until it's too late. But it's never too late to make it right. The confrontation with Mark was the hardest. I didn't go to him with anger or demands. I went with quiet strength, with the knowledge that I had rights. And that respect could not be taken away by fear or intimidation. Mark, I said softly, when we finally sat across from each other, I am not here to fight you, but I am here to be acknowledged. This house, this family, our memories, they are mine too. I am not going anywhere unless we find a way to live with love and respect. He didn't respond immediately. His jaw tightened, his hands clasped together. I could see the struggle inside him, the tension between control and conscience. It was Sophie and Ethan who finally broke the silence. Sophie ran up to me, hugging my legs. Grandma, I missed you, she whispered. Ethan joined her. Don't go, Grandma. I looked at Mark and then at Anna and finally at David, and I realized that the real turning point wasn't the papers, the meetings, or even the confrontations. The turning point was the love that hadn't faded, the bond that had survived distance, misunderstanding, and even fear. Over the next few weeks, things began to shift. Mark softened, not completely, but enough to allow dialogue. David became more present, more protective, not of property, but of family values. Anna took the lead in rebuilding trust, quietly, step by step, and I began to see what I had known all along. Strength doesn't always come from confrontation. Sometimes it comes from standing quietly, refusing to be erased, and holding on to love even when the world tells you it doesn't matter. I continued to work with Mr. Collins, not for revenge, but for clarity and fairness. The legal matters were resolved without bitterness. The house remained mine. But more than that, the family began to remember what had been forgotten, the importance of each other, the importance of respect, and the importance of love expressed through small gestures, quiet words, and presence. The day it all settled, I sat in the living room, the same room where Mark had once told me to leave. I looked around and saw Sophie coloring at the coffee table, Ethan building blocks nearby. Anna was in the kitchen, smiling faintly, and David was helping the kids put their toys away. Mark was there too, sitting quietly, watching the children. There was no apology, no declaration of victory, only the unspoken acknowledgement that respect had been restored, and that our family could begin again, cautiously but genuinely. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Not all pain was gone, not all scars were healed, but something precious had returned, hope. And with hope, the quiet promise that love, patience, and perseverance could overcome even the deepest misunderstandings. After the storm had passed, life slowly returned to a quieter rhythm. It wasn't perfect. Some walls still needed repair. Some conversations still felt fragile, but the air in the house felt lighter. The living room, the same one where Mark had once told me to leave, was now filled with warmth, soft laughter, and the occasional clatter of toys. I spent more time with my grandchildren than ever before. Sophie loved to sit beside me and tell me about her day at school, her small voice full of excitement and pride. Ethan, who had been more reserved, began asking for my help with his Little League practice again. Their laughter was the balm I had been searching for, a reminder that love, when nurtured, always finds its way back. Anna and I began to rebuild our connection. At first, our conversations were tentative. She would share small things about her day, and I would listen, letting her know I was there, without judgment or pressure. Slowly, trust returned. One afternoon, she hugged me tightly and said, "Mom, I didn't realize how much I let things go." "I'm sorry." I smiled and held her close. "It's okay, Anna. The important thing is that we're here now." David and I found a new rhythm too. We talked more openly, shared our worries, and even laughed at memories of George, remembering him not with sadness, but with gratitude for the love he had given us. Mark's presence was still quiet, but less intimidating. He began to acknowledge me in small ways, a nod in the hallway, asking about the kids, even a polite comment during family dinners. The tension that had hung like a cloud over every room gradually began to lift up. Linda, David's wife, also softened. The polite distance that had once kept me on the periphery was replaced with small gestures of inclusion. She would ask about my day, compliment a dish I had made, or bring me a cup of tea while we watched the kids play. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. One rainy afternoon, I sat by the window with a cup of tea, watching the drops race down the glass. Sophie came and sat beside me, holding my hand. "Grandma," she said softly, "I'm glad you're here." I felt tears prick my eyes, not of sadness, but of quiet gratitude. "I'm glad too, sweetheart," I whispered. The challenges we had faced reminded me of something important. Family is never about perfection. It's about presence, patience, and the willingness to forgive, even when it's hard. Even when pride and hurt run deep, I began to see that my quiet endurance, my refusal to be pushed aside, had made a difference. I didn't need to raise my voice or demand attention. Simply being myself, standing firm in my love and my truth, allowed others to recognize the same values. We started small traditions again. Sunday dinners returned, though they were simpler now, filled with shared stories rather than unspoken tension. We baked together, played together, and sometimes just sat in the living room, drinking tea and watching old family videos. These moments were small, but they carried a quiet, powerful significance. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, I sat on the porch with Anna and Sophie. We watched Ethan chase a paper airplane across the yard. "Mom," Anna said, resting her head on my shoulder, "thank you for staying, even when it was hard." I held her close. "I never left, Anna. I just had to wait for all of us to remember who we are." Sophie climbed onto my lap, hugging me tightly. "I love you, Grandma," she whispered. "I love you too," I said, my voice steady but full of feeling. As the years passed, the house became what it had always been meant to be, a place of warmth, of laughter, and of love that endured. The arguments, the distance, and the misunderstandings became part of our story, but they no longer defined us. We had grown stronger through the struggle, more patient, more understanding. I often thought about that night when I had been told to leave the living room. I remembered the cold air, the ache in my chest, and the silence that had followed. At the time, it had felt like the end of everything I held dear. But now, I understood it differently. That night had been a turning point, a moment that forced me to stand quietly and hold on to love even when it was hard. It had been painful, yes, but it had also been necessary. I realized that life isn't always fair. People make mistakes, let pride guide them, or forget the love that binds them. But even in the darkest moments, there is a way forward. Sometimes it requires patience. Sometimes it requires courage. And sometimes it simply requires faith that love, in its quiet strength, can heal what has been broken. The moral of my story is simple. Never underestimate the power of quiet resilience. Never underestimate the love you give freely, the strength you show by simply being present, and the way patience can turn even the hardest moments into opportunities for understanding and connection. I sit now in the same living room where everything seemed lost, watching my grandchildren play, my children talk quietly, and the soft light of the afternoon sun fill the space. I am here. I belong. And I am loved that life has a way of testing us, of pushing us to our limits. But it also has a way of teaching us gently that love endures. That family, though complicated, is worth the effort. And that even when the world seems to turn its back, there's always a path back to warmth, to laughter, and to connection. And so, I remain here quietly, patiently, lovingly watching the next generation grow, knowing that the bonds of family, when nurtured with care and understanding, can withstand even the hardest storms. I have learned that letting go of anger, standing firm in love, and choosing empathy over pride can change everything. And in the end, that is what makes a house a home and a family truly whole.